Hello. I said I'd be back, and I'm back. So I'll wait to see who's around because this is an impromptu live, and I just wanted to try out this software and see how it goes. So we're just gonna do something really simple and have a chat. I'm not doing a 3-hour live, so I'm just gonna chat for a little bit, and I'm not doing a 3-hour live, but I want to test out this software because it's pretty fantastic. Hi everybody, got Calicut and Katie back, and so yeah, this stuff's pretty fantastic. I'd like to. I'm really looking forward to using it, and I'm not really sure like how it integrates with YouTube or anything, but so far so good. And it's supposed to have a donation system built in, so I'm not sure how that works, but maybe it's just as simple as you just click on a button and you're allowed to donate or something. I don't know, but yeah, I would like to know if that's present. But anyhow, while you're here, I just thought we could I was just thinking, I wish it was Sunday, you'd go live, and there you are. Well, you manifested it, I guess, eternal being, because here I am. And I was I was live on Sunday. It is now Tuesday, and happy Independence Day, my fellow Americans. We had Canada Day a couple of days ago, and I went out to enjoy the fireworks in my, what I call my backyard. It was the park, and it was all right. It was pretty good. I don't really care too much, so when it's in my backyard, that's pretty good. So yeah, I guess quite a few people are out and celebrating their Independence Day, as they put it. Hi Brandon, good to see you. So yeah, like this is kind of a free-for-all, but I thought I would use Bill Donahue's video as a jumping off point, and because I really enjoyed the topic, but you know, we can talk about anything. This is the first, like, a test run of this. This is a test run of this program, and so I just want to see what we can do here, because yeah, sorry, I got distracted by a notice from YouTube. I got a copyright claim on my test run, so yeah, let's just see what we got. How have you guys been? I know it's been a long time. It's been what, 2 whole days? And you got the whole week off. Wow, that's nice. So yeah, we got a few people here, and I'm gonna play a little Bill Donahue. So I was listening to this earlier today, and I found it really, really great.
That's the purpose of all of this. It is absolutely worthless for you to go in constantly into meditation if you have no idea what you're doing. I mean, it doesn't make a bit of sense, because then when things happen to you, a lot of people, they go into meditation, something happens, and they become frightened. Why? Because they don't understand what's supposed to happen.
Okay, so I think this is a neat platform. I like it. So far, so good. When I found this software and I started looking into what it's capable of doing, I got really excited. Like, really excited. So, yeah, this video. Okay, so first thing he talked about was understanding what meditation is for, and like, what are you doing when you go into meditation? And, you know, I want to hear from you too, because I'm sure you all meditate. So what he's saying, and he didn't go too heavily into this because it wasn't really the focus of the conversation for him, But he was saying, you know, some people get scared because they end up facing, well, themselves and their demons and everything, and he wasn't really prepared to deal with that. But in terms of like, there's the approach of how you approach meditation, how you go about doing it. But what I think he's more focused on here is because he's focused on the result of what you want to get out of meditation. And the point of meditation is to raise your consciousness, to cast your net to the right side, to access the right hemisphere of the brain. So if you're not certain of what it is you're supposed to be doing, then yeah, it could be kind of all over the place. Meditation is single-minded focus to bring the unconscious to the conscious. Well said, Lana. I stumbled onto Bill Donahue video and it changed my life, Brother Mycroft. Yeah, Bill Donahue's, he knows what he's talking about. And what he talks about with mysticism and hidden meanings in the Bible is true of everything, because the Bible is just one fragment of everything in this universe. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this particular video, because what he does with the Bible is what I do with news and television and movies and everything, like street theater, because it's everywhere. The entire universe is the play that's written in the Bible, and it's acted out on stage, and you have to see through the illusion of the dual pillars to the middle. The middle is the middle pillar. Meditation is middle. Tation is the head, the middle path to the head. So you have to see past the illusion of the left and right pillars, the sun and the moon pillars, which is illusion. So yeah, you want to listen for and hear the still small voice, face to face with creation. Yes. What's the software you're using? I'm using a software called Streamlabs, and you can use their basic version for free, and there's a lot of capability in the free version. You're capable of streaming on multiple platforms with the paid for version, and it isn't that expensive. I think it's like $150 US for the year. I mean, it's a monthly fee type of system too, so that sucks. But for what it's capable of and what it does, it's pretty fantastic. So yeah, if you're a YouTuber and you like to live stream, I recommend it. Because it's like having a dashboard interface for everything you need for live streaming. And I was wondering what people were using. But yeah, like, so yeah, if you don't know what you're doing, basically the whole point of meditation is to calm the thinking, control the mind, and tap into the right hemisphere of the brain, which is your creative feminine side. And so releasing the thoughts, calming the mind, getting control of the mind, and raising your consciousness. So by getting into the right hemisphere of the brain, you are able to perceive things differently, and it's the perception that we're after. The perception changes, the perception shifts that we're after. So yeah, he was talking about somebody who had a problem with, I'll play it.
So they become scared. Oh, I'm not going to touch that anymore. And they don't realize that there's changes. This morning we went through the 6 stages, the 7 aspects of the human body, which went right through the physical, to the astral, to the causal, to the mental, to the etheric, to the soul, to God. And then leveled on each one of those, what each one of those do. And a lot of times you think when you go into normal church, well, I'm going to say a prayer to God. But you don't realize that you've got to communicate through those 6 other aspects of your being before you're ever going to get up to the top. So it's a lot more complex than what we've been led to think. And so we're just there standing in our ignorance wondering why we're not able to do anything. We're not dealing with those spiritual levels of our own being. See? So the point then, if you come here or if you're watching on, you can't do without it. And 2, listening. Very important. Listening, hearing. Whether you call, if you talk from a guru or from a teacher, whomever, there has to be someone. You can listen within yourself, but even that, you have to have a guide to say, this what you're hearing. Is this, should I be hearing this? Should I be seeing this? What? I remember a long time ago when we first started having meditations, I was not myself too aware of, what happened. And there was a young girl, and we were meditating in the house. The young girl she freaked out because she went into a meditation and she saw all of these ghastly looking faces inside, and like wolves and vampire bats and all of this kind of stuff. And she brought this to mind. I didn't know what to tell her. Well, just let it pass and saying we never saw her again. And that was a failure on my part, but I was not advanced to the point probably where I should have even been having meditations. I didn't realize. I didn't realize that that person was coming to face with herself, with symbolically those things which had caused her heartbreak and pain and fear and guilt, and they manifest themselves in these symbolic ways, and they take on these characteristics in the mind of these awful-looking animals or whatever. And then the beautiful thing is, when they come out into the light, then they can be dealt with. But
so, yeah, I found it interesting that he was talking about how some people have these very negative experiences, which is likely why people who don't know what meditation is, they get spooked and they say meditation is of the devil and they don't want to do it, and they warn people off of it because they don't want to face their inner demons. They don't want to face their dark side, their inner shadows, their shadow self. So yeah, like this is partly the problem with, this, I guess, what you could call false light teachings, the new age love and light aspect, where just focus on the positive and ignore the negative. Well, you can't ignore it because it won't go away. You have to look right at it. You have to stare into the face of the devil, cast a light on it, and then it will go away. Because if you don't confront your fears, it will grow. So, yeah, I think that's partly why people freak out with these dark manifestations that happen. And this is also likely what happens when people take drugs. If you haven't dealt with certain issues, it will come up because it's lingering there in your mind. It's there. You just haven't looked at it. What do you think? What do you have to say about these dark experiences that people have, whether it's meditation or the Ixie? Hey, come here. Come here. You don't do that. Come here. Come here. Come on. Brandon, glad you're back live. Old Bill is just fun to watch in general. Boom, I just made a video about this last night. People want to be told because they don't want to do the inner work. Yeah, they don't want to do the inner work. And, the Bill even talks about that in this video, about how if you go to church, they'll tell you all you have to do is take Jesus into your heart, or, that's all you need to do, and you're saved. Well, you're not doing any work. You're not looking at anything within yourself, and you're not changing anything about yourself. You're not changing how you think. You're not changing how you behave. All you do is go to church, and you can't change anything if you aren't willing to look within, if you aren't willing to examine your life. It's all what lies below the surface that's ultimately running the show, your programming. Yeah, this is, like you said, it's your subconscious. Your subconscious is running the show. The things that you're not aware of, your fears and your desires and your infrastructure, the essence of who you are. If you're not aware of it, that's what's running the show. There's no personal accountability or responsibility. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's difficult because when you aren't conscious, how do you take responsibility for things you have no idea you were responsible for? So it's in coming to realize that, you know, it's part of your subconscious creating it for you, so you can become aware of it, that you start to take accountability, and then your experiences change. That's why we're seeing the world the way it is, for sure, for sure. Shadow work is so important, Reina. It can be scary, yes, but it's part of the path. It needs to be done. Absolutely. So, yeah, there's so many. I think, too, like, I've seen people who are on the truth path, the awakening path, whatever you want to call it, ascension path, who aren't facing their inner issues, their inner dark side. They're not facing it, and ultimately it comes out, and they have to deal with it because they're pushing that light path. They're pushing this path. As I said before, like, if you don't face the darkness, it will grow, and so you have to look at it head on. Falling into meditation has been easy for me since I was a child, so it never felt scary. A few times I went to church, felt scary though. Yeah. Belief systems are biggest addiction because people will fight to be right. Oh my goodness, yes. See, this is the trouble, is that a lot of people aren't even aware of the belief systems that they carry, and it's the same with being stuck in the fear. If you aren't even aware that you're in it, how do you get out of it? You can't. You have to first become aware of it. So, you know, if you're, for example, if you're raised in a, you know, certain mindset or a certain belief system, or, I mean, it's easy to say, oh, okay, so I went to church and I was raised Christian, so, like, that's a belief set. Or I was raised, I don't know, Muslim, whatever. It's a belief system, and that's easy to identify. However, there are certain things that are tied to that are less easy to identify, that people, even though they drop the belief system that's tied to the religion per se, they still carry belief systems that are tied to the religion that they don't even realize are tied to the religion, and they won't drop those. So, you know, things like, let's say, demons and angels, or, and they don't realize, oh yeah, that's tied to that belief system, or good and evil, or, you know, this sort of battle of God and the devil. They're like, well, it's true, so they won't drop it, even though that it is tied to that belief system. You know what I mean? So awareness of all of that is incredibly important and necessary. Absolutely. Yeah. So what else has he got to say?
A comment by Jesus and what he's got to say about it. He's talking to lawyers. Lawyers at that time, do you have the heat on in this by any chance? Because lawyers at that time, it's starting to rise. I don't know if you're feeling it down there, but lawyers at that time were people who dwell in the law. In other words, the rules and the regulations of the Bible. And look what Jesus Christ says in Luke chapter 11, page 847. And look what he says, Luke chapter 11, verse 52. Woe unto you, lawyers, for you have taken away the key of what? Knowledge. How come? You entered not in yourselves, and them that were entering in, you hindered. How important is it? What did he say? He didn't say you didn't go to Bible study. He didn't say you didn't go to church on Sunday morning. He didn't say you didn't go to the seminary. He said you didn't enter within yourself. How serious it is. Here is the one that is claimed as the Lord, who is the Christ, who said, you take away the key of knowledge because you don't enter within yourself. So, in other words, what he's saying here is that you can do a lot of listening, you can do a lot of studying, you can sign up for this school and that school, you can take a course in miracles and a course in this and a course in that, but if you don't meditate, then you're taking away the key that will transpose that knowledge or that information you have into enlightenment, into understanding, real understanding of yourself, that which you call God.
Yeah. If you don't face, own, and claim your ish, it will rule over you. Yeah. It will. Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially trauma. A lot of people, like you say, Calicut, trauma will make you question your own reality. If you don't face your trauma and heal it and change your dialogue surrounding your trauma, it will control you. And that's really painful. It's very difficult, absolutely very difficult, but you have to get to a place of forgiveness and release. So, because otherwise, you're going to continue through life allowing your trauma to dictate how you live your life. And, I mean, you can even look at truth as trauma, which it is. Understanding the truth is very traumatic, and it affects how we behave, changes our lives. In a way, it kind of dictates how we live, because we aren't going to participate in certain things anymore. We decide we're going to focus on other things, but it's a vehicle towards taking control of your life. Whereas fear is, if it's fear-based, then it's controlling your life. You have to take control of the fear. So, yeah, at any time you're in fear, it's controlling your life. And again, if you're not aware of it, how are you going to let it go? Trauma will make you question your own reality. Yeah, I was watching this recording by a young woman who was in a reality TV show, and she was traumatized by her participation in that show, but also because she was involved in a relationship that was abusive with a narcissist. So she was relaying her experience with this person, and I watched a clip of the conversation that happened on the show between the two of them, and how people reacted to what was being said or didn't react was appalling. Only one person, two people called it out, and one person went over to see if she was okay, and a third person said that this was her experience as well with this other person. And when you're going through something like that, it's very difficult to have other people be aware that this is what's going on, because most of the time you see the reaction from the person who's the victim and not the perpetrator. You don't, because the perpetrator makes it seem believable because they're fundamentally a liar. And that's traumatic. It's so traumatic because you're trying to make sense of what somebody else is saying, but it's all lies and bullshit. And your mind is just bouncing back and forth in your head, trying to put the pieces together, trying to make sense of it, trying to set that person straight, which is a losing battle. And that creates trauma. It creates trauma in the brain because, well, it's basically like you might as well be smashing your head against the wall because that's exactly what's going on. So, yeah, questioning your own reality. She was basically being gaslit, and I know that's an overused term, but that's what was happening. She was questioning her reality because this person was doing it over a period of time, lying and making up stories and exaggerating and playing the victim and making it her fault and projection and all this sort of stuff. And it can make you question your own reality. So there's so much going on here with if you don't control your mind, someone will control it for you. And a lot of people, especially entering into truth, get traumatized and are easy prey, which is something that happens within this community, because as soon as you come into truth, you're hit with a whammy. That's trauma. What you thought the world was is not the truth, and so everything's flipped upside down, and you're just like, what's going on? You're totally disoriented, and you don't know who to talk to. You don't trust anybody. So if you find someone who thinks like you do, who sees things that you do, you are desperate to bond with them. And it's natural, because no one's going to believe you. Who's going to believe you? If you find someone who's been through it, you're going to bond. And people need to have that companionship. They need to have that sounding board. They need to have someone to talk to feel less alone. So as soon as you find someone, it's like instant bond. And then you go through more trauma and more trauma, realizing, well, hey, that wasn't even true. There's more lies here. And then you realize, well, damn, maybe I should just not talk to anybody. And you have to go alone, and that forces you to go within. So yeah, like trauma bonds. Well, see, this is the thing with the trauma bond. The actual definition of trauma bond, they say, is that you bond with your abuser. But like, there's a certain type of trauma bond that happens among people who have a shared experience, who have all been victim to that kind of trauma, which I don't even know if it has a name, but it should. And it is a form of trauma bond. So yeah, it's scary stuff when you first enter into that area, which is why, the cognitive dissonance is painful when you're first coming across certain truths. And even when you're coming across other truths, you're just like, I don't want to believe it. I don't want to believe it. And this is another thing that Bill Donahue touches on, is that this is why the Bible's written in parables, and why Jesus spoke in parables, because not everybody is capable of handling this information. It's only for the people who can see. Trauma will attract more trauma until the person seeks to find the root source of their traumas. That's when the real healing begins. For sure. Yeah. So I wonder if I can find that part.
So, okay. So that's the reason for meditation, because it's the winter solstice. It's entombed. Plan must be, is if the center is stifled, you're never going to be able to see these things. If this people's heart is waxed gross, they pray, heart is waxed. Well, I don't know anything.
This was a really good part. I like this part
about it. I have never heard of anything like this. And Jesus comments on it. Look what he says, page 789. Page 789, Matthew chapter 13. And it's a very interesting comment on the human condition. Matthew chapter 13 and verse 15. And what does Jesus say? This people's heart is waxed gross. You know what that means? The center of their understanding is stifled. There's nothing. It's closed over. It's sealed. There's no way to get through. They pray, they go to church, they go to synagogue, they go to temple, but it's all hitting their ears and falling right down because the center is closed off. The center is totally closed off. For I say unto you, this people's heart is waxed gross. Their ears are dull of hearing. Their eyes they have closed, lest any time they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears and should understand with their heart and be converted, and I should heal them. So in other words, what he's saying there is if the center is stifled, you're never going to be able to see these things. If the center is stifled, you're never going to be able to understand these things. And if the center is stifled, you can say you're saved, you can say you're religious, it's not going to mean anything. There's got to be an opening in the center. Okay. Now, the words are given to directly and purposely mislead. This is an interesting point. When you talk about words and you talk about Eastern teachers, and Jeheshua was one, they deliberately deceived.
Okay, sorry. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? So, yeah, like, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I pressed the button. Um, did you hear the Bill Donahue part, though? Can you hear me now? Yeah? Okay. Okay, great. So, sorry about that. Yeah, like, okay, what was it? Where was I? Trying to remember what I said. Okay. So, he was saying that they deliberately deceive. And when we first come into the truth, we're all about how everything's a lie. And then we point to the elite and we say they lied to us. They deliberately deceived us. And say, well, it's not just them, it's you. You deliberately deceived yourself so that you could live as a human and forget who you really are. And then you left breadcrumbs for yourself so you could remember. But it's only for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. If you're meant to wake up, you will, because you left breadcrumbs for yourself. But that is why Jesus, the Bible, is written in parables. Spotless Leopard, good to see you. I'm missing all the Sunday ones lately because I'm not getting time lately. And yes, I can hear you. Okay. Well, you're here now. Charitable Citizen, good to see you. So, yeah, I find that really interesting that it was written deliberately to deceive. The word is deliberate deception. Because, as I said before, if you're going to be batted about between the two pillars, you're going to be deceived. You have to find the middle pillar. The middle pillar takes you to the truth. So the way to do that is you have to know what the code is, and you have to read the code, which is what Bill Donahue does, which is what I do. So, yeah, very few find the narrow path, absolutely. And this is what is fascinating as well, because so many people, they'll catch some of it. And you can see, like, they have some good pieces of information and they catch some of it, and then they go to the fear, and you're like, no, no, you were headed in the right direction, and then you just went into the fear. It's like, if you're in the fear, you're still on a pillar. So you have to let go of the fear. You have to understand that it's an illusion. And yeah, it's a little bit more on the intellectual side. It's not ingrained. It has to be ingrained in your body. You have to live it. So if you're not living it and it's just an intellectual concept, It's not going to shift your perception. It's not going to change your physiology. It's not going to change you. When you go through a realization in this awakening process, it fundamentally shifts everything. And that's what you're after. So it all goes hand in hand. The Kundalini awakening is just part of it within your body, like the physical part of it. It's also the consciousness part of it has to shift too. What's the point? It's all about consciousness shift. If you don't have a shift in consciousness, if you don't change your perception and you don't change how you behave, all of those things are interconnected. What's the point? You're not learning anything, you're not changing anything, and if you're still stuck in fear, that's another thing. Again, going back to what we were saying early on, you have to change that. You have to confront your fear. I share the hard to handle truth on my community post. You have no sound again? What? The key is that we can't have them the path. Can't hand them the path. It's theirs to find or not. Oh, for sure. But if you, okay, so you can have a James Bond poster for sale and not know what it means, and you can like the pretty picture, and that's fine. It's available for you. It's there for you to buy, but you can stare at it all day long and still not know what it means. And then maybe one day you know what it means and you look at it in an entirely different way and it blows your mind, but you had no idea at the time that that's what it meant. So yeah, you can't force someone to see and you can't force them to wake up, but you can put it in plain sight and you can present the opportunity for them to wake up, but it's their choice and it's their path, and there isn't anything for you to do to facilitate that. All of us have to do it ourselves. Maybe some of them aren't meant to wake up, and that's okay. Yeah, I agree. Because we're all in different places. We're all here serving different purposes. Embodiment, for sure. Most never will. Taking responsibility for oneself is key. Yeah, that's definitely part of it, for sure. So, you go through the process of taking responsibility, taking a realization of your behavior and things that you've done, and forgiving yourself and forgiving others, and basically facing your shadows and dealing with those, facing your fears, dealing with those, meditating, going through Kundalini awakening, and the inner alchemical process. So, as I said, it's multi-tiered, multi-leveled, multi-layered. So, yeah, I don't want to play all of Bill's video because I don't think that's fair. He has a great video, so if you want to go see it, you can go see it. And it is called Word Games 481. So the older I get, the more it seems each individual is on their own path. No two are the same. For sure. The fear part of awakening still needs to be there for people that are at that level of learning. I feel anyway, if it wasn't there when I found it, I wouldn't be here. Yeah. I mean, fear, we're surrounded by fear. This is the emergency, the 911 trauma center we live in. We're surrounded by fear, and it's there to wake you up. It's there to make you realize that, hey, something's not right about this place. Shouldn't it be a little bit different here? And yeah, some of it is manifested, but most of it is just the staged play presented to you so that you wake up and remember that this isn't how things ought to be. So, totally agree. 54. Been on a long, hard, lonely ride. Yeah. Yeah, it's a very lonely ride. It's been a long time. I know. I mean, you can look at your whole life as being part of the awakening process. But there's milestones along the way. There's certain markers that are more obvious than others. You know, there were certain things in my life since I was a child that struck me as, well, hang on, that doesn't make sense. Why is that happening? And so you start questioning your reality probably when you're young. And then other things happen until you have a major breakthrough, something like a major earthquake, a major epiphany that this is wrong, that everything's a lie, and it turns your whole world upside down. So, yeah, you can. It's kind of difficult if somebody says, like, where did your journey start? I say 2017 because that's when my world turned upside down, but it was happening well before that. It was all a process leading up to that and this, all of it. Here's a question. Could you or anyone be in a relationship with a person who believes media and gets the jab, etc.? I don't think I could. No, I couldn't. And I couldn't be in a relationship with someone who is not awakened to the level I'm awakened to. I don't want to be dragging somebody up. I mean, I don't mind discussing things. Like I want to be helping each other. I want to be expanding each other's consciousness. I think that would be fun and the best approach. And we don't have to both know everything that the other person knows, because how else are you going to help expand one another's consciousness if he knows something I don't and I know something he doesn't, and we can share it and come to epiphanies together. Brandon, no. Same here. I turned 53 yesterday. They could run off on you. Yeah, like this is the trouble. If somebody is in, I mean, there are a lot of people who do have relationships with people who are not awake, and all the power to them. I don't know how you do it. I give you a lot of credit. But if you're, I would find that I couldn't be myself around them, so I couldn't tolerate it. If I can't be myself around somebody, that's going to be a major problem in a relationship for me. And if you start talking to somebody about, or your partner about that sort of thing, and they don't agree, and you get into arguments and you end up, or even if they start to want to know, they'll still get into arguments, and they go through the triggering phase where everything is a trigger, and they'll get angry at you and they'll be like, why are you telling me this? That's not true. I don't want to believe it. And then your relationship becomes about the truth, and that could be awful as well. And I'm hypothesizing here, so I know that there are plenty of people who do have a lot of different types of relationships, and some people are better at balancing this sort of thing than others, and they're okay with however the dynamic turns out to be, whereas others are not okay with it. They have to be fully out and be themselves and talk about it. So yeah, sometimes there's different strokes for different folks, I guess you could say. I'm past all that. I try to avoid those kinds of people. Calicut, if somebody is still completely asleep now, they'll never wake up. Yeah, completely asleep. Yeah, I kind of think you're right. I think we're nearing the end of the story, and I don't think that if there's no glimmer of hope, it's not going to happen. But if there's a glimmer, maybe. Oh yeah, happy belated birthday, eternal being. First time catching up in the live stream, Eternal Dreamer. Welcome. It's been a long time. It comes down to emotional intelligence. It's easier to say than do, and you get better the older that you get. What comes down to emotional intelligence? You mean in terms of how you navigate a relationship with somebody who's not awake, or what do you mean? Yours was 2012. Your upside down moment. I mean, I had a weird moment in 2013 as well. And you know, there's like I said, there's markers along the path. My husband is not awake, so to speak, and I have to balance this thing. Initially, it was very hard, but love always finds a way. Good for you. Like I said, you know, if, you know, like I have a very good relationship with my family, despite them not being awake, but I'm at peace with it. And you know, my parents are kind of, you know, there's a glimmer of hope there. And, you know, I'll sometimes leave little seeds, but I don't push. If they say something, I'll just drop a seed and see if it takes root. If not, that's okay. You know, it's their journey, but sometimes it's interesting because there's certain things that I have said about 4 years ago that are now starting to come to light for them, that it was like, because they're coming up on understanding the World Economic Forum and all of this sort of stuff, and my mom's very angry about it. And I said, okay, so now do you see that the governments are not our friend? And she's like, yeah. And so 3 years ago, she wouldn't have said that. So, I mean, that's part of it, but she still hasn't come to the realization, like, you know, hasn't come to the world flipping moment. And maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't, and that's okay. That's how me and my ex split up. It doesn't work, Mark Wilson. I'm sorry to hear that. But yeah, it does happen. I've heard a lot of stories about people who have split up because they split up because they couldn't gel with the whole truth thing. It divides. And it's supposed to divide, as is. I mean, it even says in the Bible. Honestly, I never thought I'd be a person who's quoting the Bible, but here I am. It says in the Bible, Jesus came to divide, and in I think it was Revelation, they said, you know, your household will turn against itself. Brothers and sisters and mothers and daughters and mother, father and son, you'll be turning against each other, which is the whole point. So, yeah, unfortunately, it sucks, but if that's the path, that's how it has to be. In terms of waking up and knowing who's right or wrong, that's what I mean. Comes down to emotional intelligence. Yeah. I mean, it also comes through to experience too, because, you know, initially you go through, I think mostly in the fear stage, you go through the finger pointing and the right and wrong stuff, And when you're out of the fear stage, you start to realize, well, hang on, there's no point in arguing with somebody because I understand where they're at. They need to go through that phase. Everything is all part of the story. It's all part of the journey. It needs to happen. And I'm at peace with it. It's fine. It's all good. And you don't need to, bat back and forth and say, I'm right, you're wrong, this sort of thing. Sometimes someone will come at you, and it's tempting, and you might, participate, but it's your choice if you want to participate. But it really doesn't go anywhere good. It just doesn't. So my family are asleep other than them. I avoid people altogether. The fakery is always there. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Yeah, well, that's the thing with when you raise your awareness and you change your perception, you see things you can't unsee, and the world appears to be totally different. You see all the fakery, you see the staged behaviors, the world stage, not just on television, but start to see it in your own life. You start to see how we're all playing a role, which what I've noticed, especially in understanding the God that you are and the role that you play here, and seeing that unfold, and how it shows up in every aspect of your life. So I'm starting to see that with the people around me and the roles that they play and who they really are, and they're the God that they are. So we were tricked, lied to, so we had things to get from. If we weren't tricked and lied to, it would be boring. It would be boring, but you were the one who tricked yourself and lied to yourself. But yeah, life was boring before all of this. I gotta say, I think the most exciting thing about life has been the truth journey. The mundane is boring as hell. I couldn't even believe that we were here solely to take up space, work a job, make money, buy stuff, have a family, and then die. It makes no sense. Absolutely no sense. So to me, that aspect of life is the most boring aspect, and the more I climb up the ladder, the less I want to participate in the boring, mundane, trivial aspects of life. It's so painfully boring. Eternal being, I like to bring up flat earth to new people. It seems to be a good starter question to see where people are at. They either think I'm nuts or they want to know more. We go from there. Good for you. I'm glad that we're in a place now where you can actually even mention it without getting into a fight. So, it was like it was scripted to happen for me. I learned a lot from it. It is scripted, absolutely scripted. Yeah, I'm not even gonna. Sometimes I think we came here for a challenge. Like we'd completed the game centuries ago, and now we're back here to test our souls. Like weights and running, it has to be hard to improve. Maybe. Like the movie Pleasantville. Yeah, who knows? Like it could just have been. I know there's one of my viewers, her handle is God Was Bored, and so all of this was created to relieve boredom and loneliness. So God divided herself, and became the universe, and created this one song, this story. in order to find him herself again. So it's highly possible. Heat and pressure produce diamonds. Yes, they do. Carbon under pressure produces diamonds. So, yeah. Great conversation, everybody. God had to find her muse inspiration. Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah, like the truth coming between people is one of the hardest things. And I think when you get out of the fear stage and you get into whatever you want to call it, non-duality, unity consciousness, that sort of thing. And that's not even the end. People say that unity consciousness is the end. It's not. It's not the end of your journey. It's part of it. But when you get to that point and you see that it's all here for your benefit, here to wake you up, it's all part of love, and you realize that there's nothing to be done, then you can kind of get to a place of peace where it's okay if your loved ones don't wake up. It's okay. You understand. And you'll help them if they do, and you'll help them if they want it, but you just become at peace. Yeah. So, any last comments? Any final comments you want to add to the chat before I end this session? Like I said, I wasn't going to do a 3-hour journey today. No? Nobody has anything more to say? Okay. Okay, well, I appreciate you joining me. Katia, the Zodiac, I've stumbled upon a video that shows even it's been changing and there are 13 signs. Yeah, there's 12 signs. And I've heard about the 13 signs, but yeah, there's 12. And yeah, the 13 signs is a deception. But I don't know all the details about it. I did the same thing about Flat Earth and promised myself not to try again. Yeah. You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for participating. This was fun. Nice little impromptu chat. Hope you're doing well. I'm going to leave it there and enjoy the rest of your day. Yeah, it would be great if you could join me on Sundays. I'm going to try and hop on here for random chats a little bit more often, and just short ones though. I'm not doing 3-hour chats every random time. But this was good. This was fun. All right. Thanks everybody. Have a good day.